Hello, people of YouTube and the metaphysical New Thought community. This should be my first video ever for this channel, whatever this channel ends up being called. I just decided, as a person who is alone most of the time, not lonely, but just alone, and frequently thinks in terms of metaphysics and not just what they see before them, that there's definitely something else going on, and I think that's kind of an amateur statement to make for the point in my life that I'm at. After having known about New Thought for years and years, after having many experiences that have pointed to the idea that there is something else going on beyond, what this person did or what that person said, and basically, essentially, the idea that you're generating these experiences. Now, being alone, which many would say was not a choice of their own to spend this much time alone, might come to realize that they actually did choose to be alone, and whether they feel good in that or bad in that, there's not really one answer to that. It's most likely a mixed bag. But being a guy who has spent most of his life alone, and having experiences that an alone people, a person who spends, sorry, I'm still waking up, somebody who spends way too much time by themselves, but who is interested in self-development in the right ways, as opposed to strictly relying on the outside to give you opportunities or experiences. I'm talking in complete circles here, but I think I'm just going to let this one fly anyways, because I will come around and make a decent point. But this is why I'm filming, because I have thought about this stuff and had questions about this stuff, and I've read and heard Neville Goddard to no fucking end for years now, and I've seen a lot of things that have perfectly corresponded to affirmation and thoughts and conversations, internally mainly, and I've seen these things become printed in some sort of way, and you can trace it back. And most of the time, if I was consciously experiencing something like that, where I knew that I was the direct cause before the actual 3D event happened, it was just more confirmation that this is really how this works, in the law of belief, in the law of assumption. Even in the last week, I mean, so far 2026 has been a year where I feel like I've tested the law lightly. It was always about testing affirmations and things like that. And really the thing that always made the change was my response to me telling myself something different consistently, whether that was for 5 minutes, 20 minutes, a day and a half, a week. And I've had whole weeks of stability in particular states that were desirable for the first time since really taking, we'll say, the law of belief seriously. And it took me a really long time to get out of the loop of me personally. I hope it takes nobody else as long to step out of that left brain, like nothing's actually going to change, like what if this doesn't work, and the doubts and all that. Because I had some pretty big, if you want to put it on the scale of 3D magnitude, lots of love, lots of money, lots of opportunities, lots of joy. All these things seem like they're, your greatest accolades, but it's actually something that's just being waiting, and things that you are queuing up for your future self, and you don't even realize it. And so I feel like, after, we'll say, 3 solid years of just, seeing direct results of things that I do like, and then also the continuation of other things that are like, why hasn't this changed yet? This doesn't make sense. I will say this, every moment is the continuation of the great unfolding. And I think if we can remind ourselves of that while laying down, defining the law for yourself and the way you would like to apply it, would actually put you on I would say, in the 3D terms, a trajectory that would land you where you would like to be. But I think we're going to be using this law, whether you like it or not. That's the thing that has motivated me through 3 years. Instead of saying, screw it, I'm quitting this, I'm not doing this anymore, I'm not seeing results. I think I can't give up. I've never been allowed to give up. I've been allowed to take my foot off the gas and say, you know what, I'm just going to live the experience. I feel like I put my intentions out there. It's been meddled with, other things like, possibly intrusive thoughts, possibly, just, it's all internal, like things that, might make you feel uncomfortable. Just at the end of the day, that's really what it is just intrusive thoughts. Things that don't, it's like a shoe that doesn't fit, it's not yours, but you're kind of fighting it off, like, why would I have that in the first place? I've been doing so good with this stuff, and directing, my consciousness at a particular desirable identity, because it all comes back to identity, that I would like to experience. So yeah, wherever the hell I was going with that. But, after 3 years of doing this stuff, I've seen, like, numerous opportunities. The things that happened in the 3D were tied to things or states that I knew I was occupying. And there were key things during those, the things that got me to hold the state for the longest duration was always when I had something to anchor my mind to. There were these anchors, maybe one thing, maybe 5 things that you would have that thought, and it would immediately carry you to, it would immediately put you in the present moment with the image or the feeling of the thing that you you desire, or the thing that you are currently, we'll say for now, attempting to live in. It was the thing that anchored you to the identity of the person that was experiencing the thing that you wanted to experience, which would mean that the thing that you wanted to experience was you, right? And that's what manifestation is. When you anchor yourself to the identity of you that is experiencing the thing that you, quote unquote, are trying to experience, right? You are the experience. So, even though this video is all over the place, I'm sure this will clear up. It's just kind of a foggy day, but I couldn't help but, to go along with the theme of my 2026, I've studied this shit for 3 years, and my main point of saying that was to say that this year is the year of action for me and change. What I'm doing right at this very moment is not typical for me. I never thought I would do this, but I feel like it would be really a waste for me to go through this world without maybe sharing my perspective on this and my thought, because I do, despite, this video being way, I don't even know really the point of this video. I'm just talking, but this is, most of the time I have coherent ideas about this and, epiphanies, that I think that might help the next guy or gal. And I think that's the magic of it for, using this as an outlet. I'm interested in using this as an outlet to share my ideas, but also help people so they can enjoy their experience as God in human form. So, me as myself, I'm more interested in living the experience of me knowing that life is conscious manifestation, and me also being directly aware of that being the cause of everything that I've seen and everything that I'm seeing and everything that I will see, which technically is time collapsed into one stream of consciousness. It's like it's already been selected. I think I heard quite a few years ago, I was at work and heard of this guy who was, I think he was Pentecostal. I'm not really of any religion, although I was raised by one in particular. And I'm also not particularly against that orthodoxy, but knowing about this stuff and the interpretation of it, specifically Neville Goddard is the guy that I've read the most about, and his ideas and his interpretations on things. And I think that is his interpretation makes a lot of sense to me. But yeah, I completely lost my train of thought there, but we're just going to keep it rolling. So one of these days I'm going to get on here and I'm going to have a straight, prompt, and then I'll be able to work, something around that to explain this. And once again, it's just an outlet because I think about this stuff so frequently. I was convinced that I almost wouldn't be able to hold a job down because I would be thinking about this stuff so hard, because It's like, if this is the game, if this is the cause of the game, and we're out here playing the game, and we feel like we're struggling with the game, but we know that we're the cause of it, you kind of want to remove yourself. You want to be alone for an extended period of time, to remove from the 3D and to begin to lay the foundation for the new you, which is also synonymous with the current you. I mean, you're always new. You're new every, nanosecond. Quicker than that. Or more frequently than that. That doesn't really matter. It's just more the idea that, like, you literally get to re-select yourself every moment. So you want to build up momentum on the things that you like rather than the things that you don't. And you want to get out of that thing where, that complainer syndrome, the victim mentality, being hinged to, local leadership in your own life, as the final word. You are the final word. So watch who you're listening to, and reserve that time or that mental space to be alone, right? To define life as you would want it to be defined as in your experience, right? So I hear a lot of guys on YouTube talking about that, and gals talking about the one line. This is like a all-around anchor. This isn't for something specific, but sorry about that. One really good anchor is to always tell yourself, when you start feeling like you're kind of falling off the horse, you always say to yourself that the key is defining things in your experience as you would want them to be at all times. Living from the imagination. You're not taking leadership or anybody else's perceived authority figure's word for every little thing, but you're going internal, you're going alone for an extended period of time, just on the inside, not necessarily like in proximity or anything like that. You can do this at a freaking party. You can go in your head for a minute and be like, oh shit, I'm living that reality that I want to live. I've never seen a cruise ship roll in, and I believe I'm witnessing that for the first time ever. That is really neat. I've had a lot of experiences. I've had a lot of defining moments. I've had a lot of wins, quite frankly, in the last, I would say, year. And I believe anybody else could get that big win much quicker if you learn to remove yourself from the perceived authority, not just from people, but the perceived authority from the world, the 3D, we'll call it. Everything that can be detected by the senses and also judged via the filter of your ego, which ultimately kind of hinders your consciousness, which is why it all goes back to identity. Believe you have received it and it will be added unto you. I feel like that's paramount. But also perceiving everything as you would want it to be. Those two right there, that's gold. It's a gold mine. And you're going to find, very possibly, I don't know if you're like just a beginner at this, or you've just become aware that of this new thought idea, and that you do have, we won't say 3D control, but you have like an indirect you have an indirect controls via the metaphysical, or some people would call it the 4D. To keep it simple, I'd reference it as the 4D versus the 3D. And the 3D is kind of the aftershock of the 4D. And I used to get kind of hung up on the thought. The 4D is your consciousness, the things that you let slip through consciousness, and then they are projected out into the world. So basically the world is like the printer projection of everything that you've been conscious of since I'm assuming day one. So I used to get kind of hung up on things like thoughts, like intrusive thoughts and stuff like that, especially for very touchy, hot topics, hot subjects in my mind, open wounds, whatever. And I have a very good example of that. Man, in the most peace I've ever felt in my life was from a situation that was so hurtful, and I mean, I didn't handle it right originally for a long time, because you were just trying to get back on a grip with the 3D and then get to the imaginative side of it. But it was like your imagination was working against you, and I didn't anytime, like, so I could keep sort of a clean diet, and then you would go off, and then you would be like, well, is this going to be the thing that's chosen, or is this the thing that's going to seep through? And it's like, no, I don't want that. And you would kind of like just cut the spiral off. You're new every second. You don't have to worry about it. Just get back on the thing where you're feeling relief. It's neutral. It's a relief feeling. It's like, oh, I can go out, we'll say, just for the sake of argument, I can go out and go to the store, or I can do what I need to do, and I'm not being totally consumed by controlling this thing. Now, there is this idea that, and it's true, I wouldn't feed the idea too much as like something to be feared, because it's all you at the end of the day. That's all your world is you. It's the outpicturing of you. So you're going to have to face your old self. And I've always I've been kind of experimenting with this, and I have a quite interesting story. Ego death. I think I'll put that in another video. It was my first experience of conscious ego death, which sounds terrible, but that means that you're being reborn into something that a rapid change that you actually want, and it's trying to integrate, but your old self is trying to place before you the things that you were before, right? So once you claim the new identity, then the old is no longer the most present identity that you are carrying. And so the ego does what it does best, is try to protect the old, limited, outdated identity that you were by showing you. I've never seen it quite 3D, and that's actually a lie, because I just haven't been able to pinpoint it. But I would say mostly for me, as somebody who has observed things from the alone state, I haven't really seen the lashback lashback from the 3D so much as I did maybe like internally. I think it was more the lashback came from the inside, and you would feel some physiological effect of the backlash rather than, you know, you're manifesting something and something comes at you in real life. Haven't really seen that. The only thing I could really say is, you know, if you know the 3D is bullshit and it's the effect, you really don't want to call it like, you know, like trash. You don't want to do all that because it's like, do you really want the projection to be trash? Absolutely not. And you would be putting that in your imaginative mind to be projected that the world is trash if you say the 3D is trash. So, and I guess it's how your consciousness is interpreting you saying the 3D is trash. 3D is old news, right? So once you start to develop your imaginative self, the 4D, and define it as the way you would want it to be, then the 3D begins to print the things on the screen of space as you would want them to be. So it's all a time collapse into one thing in your imagination. The 3D is where there's a perceived past and future, but we're just in the imaginative plane carrying those past things to now, which we should never be. We should not be. Instead, we should just be straight going alone and defining things as we would like them to be, so we can begin to live. We can begin to experience the 3D once again as we would like them to be. It's a pretty damn simple formula. I know it's thrown me off. I know it's definitely, you know, a challenge for other people, but a lot of people are, I don't really know like where the world collectively, in terms of, I guess like the collective conscious, like where we stand as in like people in modern society who were 3D based. Like I couldn't tell you like if the world's more woken up than it's ever been. I feel like it could be. I feel like that's very possible. But I do feel like this new thought thing will become the normal. However, I don't think everybody as of now is like ready to understand this stuff, because it does rattle you when you realize you are the cause of all these things, and it really goes against everything that you're told, you know. But it also, you know, in the 3D, you have to wonder why there are people who deny losing ever. They do not subscribe to the idea that they lost and that they should give up. And they continue to see in their imagination, because that's where it all begins, that the world is how they would like it to be. And then now everybody sees them in the position of that same thing. But from their point of view, their reality is literally how they would like it to be. It's become that in the 3D, and now everybody else is seeing that their world is also how they would like it to be. And that sort of goes into a theory that I won't go into this video, but yeah, I'm hitting that 30-minute mark, so yep, stay safe out there.